Okay, so here is my new video. You can see I downloaded a picture of the Cybertruck from the World Wide Web. So to start finishing my 3D model, I have to basically create a sketch that lets me indicate off of a single XY axis, and so that was the point of that. And now let's start AutoCAD. Now they have something to measure off of. And here we are. This time I'm actually showing what it's like to start AutoCAD from DOS. This is a menu, old school. You have to like type everything in, you got to get it right on the first try. There's no list of files, you just have to know what you have. A lot of times we would just load files off a floppy disk. Although in this case I'm pretending I'm rich and I have a hard drive. Well, of course AutoCAD had to have a hard drive, but some places like didn't want you to save files with a hard drive because you only had a 20 megabyte or 40 megabyte hard drive. But yeah, so here we are in here, and I guess I'm just measuring and we'll start drawing. Okay, well this video is much longer than I had expected. I actually sped it up like 12 times and it still took like 20 minutes altogether, but hopefully you will find it interesting. Okay, so this must be my starting point with the overall slope of the truck. Now you can already see the Cybertruck shape. So, I mean, it's obviously the easiest vehicle in the world to draw in old DOS programs because that's the whole point of it. It looks like it's from the 80s. This also part of my delay is I am rusty. I'm a little bit better at this. You know, I haven't used AutoCAD for DOS since like the mid 90s, so I'm a little bit rusty. And and I haven't used AutoCAD. I stopped using AutoCAD on a daily basis somewhere around 2002. So whether it's Windows or DOS, I haven't used it in any capacity since basically 2002. So it's 20 years ago already, over 20 years ago. So yeah, I'm a little bit rusty, but it's getting back to me. Now here I'm inputting all the different various XY measurements that I have off my sketch that I drew earlier. Of course, AutoCAD is not parametric, so you have to basically get it right on the first try. You can't. I mean, it's not exactly what you can move and reposition things, but it's not compared to like SolidWorks or something like that. You can't, or FreeCAD, you can't just go in and retype a number and have everything move around it. And here I get the window shape. So right now I'm drawing in a single, drawing on the XY plane of what's called the world coordinate system, which is the base layout of everything in AutoCAD. I'll make it 3D later, but for now we gotta draw it in 2D. And then I think I kind of misdrew the shape there, so I fixed it up a little bit. But draw out the shape in 2D and then project some 3D lines away from it. That's how I'm going to tackle getting the third dimension of this. Again, this chalk is so much easier. AutoCAD, even this ancient DOS program, has the ability to do things like more like simulated, but you can do more advanced curved surfaces with it, which I actually have some models, and maybe I'll show that later. But I will not be redrawing them again because it is a pain in the butt, and I'm not even sure if I can remember how to do it. But with a Cybertruck, it's super easy because I'm just dealing with flat three-dimensional planes. So that's kind of why I chose to draw it Of course, obviously Cybertruck is big in the news right now, but also it's the easiest thing to draw in the world. But AutoCAD can be used for more advanced surfaces if you want. Although in reality, even back in the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, you would have had other software tools to use. You would have like Unigraphics and some other more advanced three-dimensional software tools for industrial use, or CATIA even, which is still used in the auto industry today. AutoCAD was always meant more for. AutoCAD is just a glorified digital drafting board. It's not really it never was fully fleshed into a full 3D program, which is too bad, because with AutoCAD Release 11, they had something called AME, which basically gave it solids capability, but yes, you could do 3D solids on a 46 with AutoCAD 11 AME, but I don't know what happened. They kind of dropped the ball, and then when SolidWorks came out, they played catch up with Inventor. But I mean, AutoCAD had everything that we have in the modern era, albeit with harder to use, way back in 1990. But they're the only player in town, and of course there was no forces driving them to update their software. So, and of course the whole concept of 3D solids and stuff, and this was outside the paradigm of most drafters. And of course, what I'm doing here isn't even a solid; these are just flat 3D faces. This is the way I'm drawing AutoCAD is more like Blender than using SolidWorks. And while I do have a copy of AutoCAD 11, I don't know if I'm going to go to it. So this is a fun trip down memory lane, but this software is not exactly user-friendly, and who knows. And to get to this gives you the gist of what's going on, because even with solids package, you still, one thing that sucked is like it wasn't parametric, so you would draw a shape, extrude it as a solid, and then if you changed it, you have to delete the solid. I mean, you could do unions and subtracts, but you'd have to redo them all if you changed any shape. So it was it was kind of like a one-time deal. It was the parametrics that really make the modern 3D software so much smarter. But it seemed like AutoCAD had it. It was 90% there, which that was the Mechanical Desktop supposedly did that. And I first saw Mechanical Desktop back in like 1996 or 7. I can't remember when it came out, but I was pretty amazed at the idea that you could put in a dimension and then change it and the whole model would change. But it was AutoCAD managed to make it as not user-friendly as possible. Of course, then when I saw SolidWorks was Windows-based. I mean, AutoCAD they had Windows programs, but they basically had DOS interfaces. Like AutoCAD Release 14, which I consider to be the best version of AutoCAD, was a Windows version of AutoCAD. And that's basically what I used until 2002. I used AutoCAD Release 14. I never upgraded from that. And the places I worked, I would always request AutoCAD 14. I still typed in the commands like you see here, even though it had Windows, and some of the buttons did help, but 90% of my work I was just typing in, But with SolidWorks, it was truly a graphical interface from the start. So, of course, now finally, after all these years, we get FreeCAD, which is kind of an open source version of SolidWorks, which is hard for people to use if they use SolidWorks. But the funny thing is that FreeCAD is basically like SolidWorks in the year 2000. So for those of us who used SolidWorks way back in the early 2000s, FreeCAD seems just fine. But obviously it's 15 years behind evolution. So here you just see me making the 3D faces, Now I'm just boozing. Instead of like cutting a window out of the 3D object, I'm just going to draw a false window over the top, because basically because I'm lazy and I don't do it. I don't really want to go to the time. It's just easier to just draw a false window over the top. And I'm rendering it in EGA mode, so nobody's going to know the difference anyways. The AutoShade program I use never did support transparency or anything, so that wouldn't come until 3D Studios. It was one of the first things I did was loaded in one of my model cars and added a transparent window and rendered it, and that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was way back in 1992, I think, summer of 92 is when I got first time I got to use 3D Studios. Even that's 30 years ago. Some people pointed out the software I'm using is really more late 80s, but I call it early 90s because I did not have access to the software. I started using these tools in 1990, and I used them until 1992 when I finally got 3D Studios, and then I switched over to 3D Studios. But in hindsight, 2 years doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're young and you're learning something new, 2 years is like 10% of your life. So to me, it seems like forever, but really, it's not. If you're young, 2 years is a long time. If you're old, 2 years is not a long time. And so you can really see it coming to shape. So I have all these weird bright colors. That's to help the different. I have different layers for different parts. So here's the tire. You see me planning to bring the tire from the last video. Now I'm going to scale it, and if you look close, you'll see some cuts in the video because AutoCAD was crashing. Somebody commented on one of my videos that the software didn't crash, but trust me, it does crash. It crashes all the time. And it's worse in Windows because sometimes it crashes and you got to restart. Now I did this all in DosBox, so I didn't have to restart my system, but it's still a pain in the butt. Although this AutoCAD for DOS did have a crash recovery system, which works actually pretty well. So I didn't lose all my progress, but it's still annoying. You can see me changing the colors. Now, again, on this version of AutoCAD, I'm running in 16 color mode. AutoCAD version, I'm pretty sure 10 does, but 11 for sure. And 11, yeah, they support high color modes, which would be 256 colors. Then I've had to set up piece of drivers and mess around, and it's a lot of work. I've gotten it to work on actual physical hardware in the past. I've never tried it in DosBox, and I'm not going to because I don't care. The point is that everything looks white, but they're actually different colors, different shades of gray, and I've not taken the time to set up custom display drivers to show that. So, but when it renders, ironically, when I render it in EGA AutoShade, you will see the different shades stick out. Hence it's called AutoShade. But here it all looks white. So on each different object's on its own layer, and you can just start doing hidden line for the first time. Now I'm doing hidden line, and it's for some reason it's showing. I lost some polygons somewhere along the way, so I'll have to add those back in. And this will just kind of clean up. Oh, there, I'm going to change the tail light to red. So I don't know if I listed the layers or not in here, but I think I cut those out because whenever you list layers in AutoCAD, it switches video modes, and DosBox creates a new video every time the video mode changes. And so I left all those DOS screen video modes out, so you can't see me showing the layers and all that stuff. I might. So one thing I don't do in this video, I'll do some 3D renderings at the end. That's the whole entire point. It's ironic that I'm spending most of my time in AutoCAD and only a few minutes in AutoShade, but my goal is to show off AutoShade. But the next video, I still have some. The next video, I plan to do some animations if I can get the system to work. The problem is that the AutoShade scripts fail sometimes when I try to use them in this version of AutoCAD Release 10. So I don't know what the problem is. I have to play around with it some more. I also have AutoShade version 1.0, which has some limitations, but I believe we can still do EGA animations, even though it won't do VGA animations. So I have some homework to do. So, but this gets the crux of it. This is me drawing. I guess the point is to draw 3D Cybertruck and MS-DOS with using old AutoCAD and AutoShade, and I achieved that goal. When I do the next one, I might move to hardware. I do have a 386 laptop. It's that laptop you see me at. If you look on my videos, you'll see a video of me installing a 387 coprocessor, so I can do 3D stuff on 3D CAD on old Unisys laptop. That laptop. So I'm wondering if some of my problems with the scripts, here they are right here. So these scripts are failing sometimes when I run them, and I'm not sure if, so like, I've found some reference. It's hard to find references from like 1990s on the internet now because of the, the quote-unquote doomed half-life theory. But I did stumble across some Usenet stuff discussing, and I'd forgotten, ironically, AutoCAD behaves badly when you use high memory loading devices, which is supposed to free up memory for DOS, because it was, I don't know exactly why, but I believe DosBox has simulated high mem and like QMM kind of stuff in it, so that you can get the maximum free memory for your DOS programs. AutoCAD and AutoShade do not like that. They run, but they get angry at it. So I'm hoping if I move this to real hardware and I run it, the scripts will run, because the error. By the way, again, you can't see it on the screen, but if I go, the errors in the DOS. Oh, here we go, rendering. Okay, so now we're rendering. So there's the Cybertruck. The point is that the error is running out of memory. It's stupid, but maybe on physical hardware everything will run fine. Okay, so I'm showing here is the Cybertruck, the first render, which you saw before. Oh, I'm doing these rendering in this first video of AutoShade. I'm running it without being sped up at all. I'm just simply running everything in real time, so you can see how fast it rendered. Now this is actually still running faster than my original hardware. This is running about as fast as a 386-33, which of course you would have had in a workplace, but for my personal computer that I use, it wasn't this fast. I had a 386-16SX, so okay, here we go. Here's a true render in real time. This is, of course, a DosBox. We'll redo this eventually on real hardware. It'll be pretty close to the same thing. There you go. So there you can see it. Now what I did here is I did quick shade, so you can still kind of see through some of the parts, which is lame, but you can really see the tires being darker color than the body and the rims. So there you can see the effect. And there it is, the first real-time rendering of my Cybertruck. And of course you can see there's no seams. That was that stupid Autolisp script failing earlier. So I've got some things I can do about that, but I just don't really care enough to mess with it. I just want to get this video done and uploaded. So, but my rusty gears are starting to break loose, and you'll see I finally remember how to like show camera views right from AutoShade without having to do stuff in AutoCAD. It's been like, last time I ran this stuff was like 1992, so cut me some slack. Especially on the AutoShade end. Animator I used until like 1995 when I finally got like Photoshop and stuff. And because even though in these videos I show Animator for making animations, I mostly used Animator for drawing pictures. And my very first web page that I ever created back in 1995. I did all my web page graphics using Animator for DOS to make the GIF files. Alright. So there's a proper shape, so you can see it. Alright, so here I'm going to try to set the camera properly. So I'm in perspective mode. I'm going to make the camera a little nicer so it looks more, it still looks pretty isometric here. I also noticed that when I render, this AutoShade makes the screen fill up, which I never really realized before, but that's a nice feature. Of course, when it's running properly, I'm setting all the cameras up in AutoCAD. I'm not having to use this AutoShade interface. There we go. Now, you can see I'm missing two wheels. That's on purpose because back in the day, you didn't want any extra polygons at all. And so I didn't think I would be, you know, these, what do they call them, quarter shots. You know, I didn't know if I would even be seeing the wheels, so I didn't bring them in. Again, if I do an animation, I'll have all four wheels. But you know, I'm trying to be as realistic as I was back in the day, and like, yeah, you would delete objects out. There was no like software optimization like you have now. And that looks pretty cool. Now that's perfect. I should do a screenshot of that thing, but so that looks pretty neat. So that you can really start to see the software shine. I mean, you know, for most stuff actually came out in 1987, so to think about that, that's pretty amazing. The other thing that you can do with the software, with the version 1.1, is you can save out what are called RND files, and those can be, even if the graphics on the screen look terrible, you can load them into a program like Adobe Illustrator or something, and they'll come out without the dithering. So that was pretty neat. All right. So I think that's the screenshot I used for the video. So here now, I think this is sped up a little bit again, this video. I think we're coming to the end here. Yeah, so here I'm just playing around with this. I don't even know why I put this on the video. You know, these just are making non-shaded 2D data files to load back into AutoCAD, which I don't even know what the point of that would be, because you can do all this in AutoCAD. You can create DXPs from AutoCAD, so I don't know what the point. I suppose maybe it's a workflow. If you had an employee whose job was just to run AutoShade, they could send stuff back, but anyways, so I think we're almost done here. And thanks for watching. Have a good day. And all right.